About the time that I started seeing my daughter's father, I remember my mother belted me around the kitchen for some reason in her house. I don't remember what it was all about, but she was flogging the living hell out of me. And the kitchen was right at the top of the stairs where you actually come into the house. And I was really scared that she was going to throw me down the stairs. And then she started saying on how lucky we were to have my stepfather in our life, and what he did to me was my fault, and it was because of me that he took his heart attacks and that I killed him. And I remember, and I'm not proud of this at all, I remember picking up a big knife off the kitchen bench, holding it in front of myself and saying to her that we were never lucky to have that man in our life. What he did to her, and especially what he did to me, we were not lucky. And if you ever mention that man's name to me again, I will shove this knife through your guts. And I threw the knife down on the kitchen bench and I walked out and left home. And that is when I moved in to live with my daughter's father. When my daughter's father and I first got together, he actually lost his job because he worked for my ex-fiance's parents. So that was fair enough. It was all too hard. And we applied as a partnership, him and I, a job with Golden Fleece. And we got the position. And what we would do is Golden Fleece would, when they would take over a site, a service station that a lessee had been in. Of course, lessees, when they move out, they run them down, they don't clean them, they don't look after them. So we would be put into a service station, clean it up, get the mechanic side working, operational, getting clients in, and then we would, once it was a really good operational business again, we would then train a new lessee and go into it, and then we would be taken to the next service station that we needed to do that for. And we did that for a while in Brisbane. And at the same time, we were racing speedway, so we were working long hours and then racing speedway. I loved the racing. I loved the driving of the car because we used to both drive. And but whenever we were finished, I love the speedway, I love the racing, but after speedway, when it was finished, all of the men, every man in the teams would buy a carton of beer, and we would not leave speedway until every bottle of that beer was drunk by all the teams. And then, of course, I had to tow the trailer home with the saloon car on the back. So I learnt to tow at a very early age. And we had no brakes on the trailer at that stage. I didn't have brakes back then. But we had to get home safe. But there is a few other stories about when we were coming home from Speedway one night, I was so tired. I'd been working all week. I was heavily pregnant with my daughter. I had the youngest daughter of his daughter in the back of the car with one of her little friends, and I was towing the trailer home this night, and there was a big part of the trip that I don't even remember. I must have gone to sleep. We didn't have an accident, but I ran off the road a little bit, and of course the trailer jolted and it woke me up. Scared the hell out of me, because I really didn't remember a huge part of that trip. That's how tired I used to be all the time. So at 17, I was being mother to 3 children and an alcoholic and very violent man. I didn't realise how violent or how much alcohol he really drank until I actually was there for a while. And then the abuse just started. He would pick me up and throw me up against a wall. He wouldn't so much hit me, just throw me down onto the floor, or something. So it was a part of life to me. You know, this is what I thought normal life, family things were at that stage. This man controlled everything about me. If I got my hair cut, I was doing it for somebody else, and then I'd get a flogging for it. I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody at all. Even when he was there, I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody. And we were having a party at our house one night, and with all his friends, and one of his friends came up and talked to me. I was sort of sitting off in the corner, and I had long hair, and I just hung my head and put my hair over my face, and I just said, please don't talk to me. Please, just, I'm all right, just go away. And because he would just flog the living hell out of me if somebody talked to me as though it was my fault. And we were at the Speedway Club or Sporties Club, whatever it was, in the Valley one night. And we were there with his sister and her husband. They were up from Melbourne. And we were standing at the bar getting a drink. And now my cousin was on the other side of my daughter's father at the bar. And he was looking at me. And I knew he was my cousin. But this poor bugger, he fell out the back of a ute when he was young and hit his head severely. And he had brain damage. He was slow. And my daughter's father turned to him and said, are you right there, mate? And he said, yeah, sorry, mate, I just thought she was my cousin. I couldn't even say hello to him. I was so scared. And to this day, I still feel really bad about that. Because my poor cousin, but I couldn't allow it to talk to him because, so even though I didn't talk to my poor cousin because I was too terrified to, all hell broke loose in there, and my daughter's father started abusing me and carrying on, and I was really scared that my young cousin was going to get involved in it. And I knew a few other people in the bar, and I knew that they would get involved in it too. So I left. I walked out of the bar in the middle of the night in the valley, and I was walking through the valley. But I was never, ever scared to be alone in dark places or anything. I always was never frightened of it. And one of the young guys that I knew seen me walk out of the bar, and I was walking along through the valley, and he came up in his car and he said, Loretta, get in, you can't walk through here at this time of night. It is not safe for you. And I said, no, look, I'm all right, please, just go away, just leave me alone. And he did, eventually. It took some convincing because I was terrified my daughter's father was going to come out and see me talking to somebody. But it wasn't a great deal of time, probably about 20 minutes, when her father and his sister and her husband came driving past and they picked me up. But all hell broke loose again. I got another hiding for that, and I hadn't even done anything wrong. One night in an argument, he was on a rampage. He'd broken all our trophies for Speedway, thrown them all on the ground, and he wanted a cup of tea, so I went to make him a cup of tea, and then he took the kettle out of my hand and he smashed it on the ground and fell over, and then so I continued on. I got a saucepan out of the cupboard and put on the stove to boil some water to make him a cup of tea. And anyway, the water was boiling. I was walking, turned around and went from the stove to put it in the cup, when in his rage he hit the bottom of the saucepan and all the boiling water came all over me and burnt me from here all the way down the front of me. And then, of course, I was burnt severely. It was boiling water. He took me to the Royal Brisbane Hospital, and his eldest daughter said, I'm not leaving you alone, I'm coming with you. So she came too, because we were very close. And when we got to the Royal Brisbane Hospital, he kicked us out of my car, mind you, and then he drove my car down the front wall of the Royal Brisbane Hospital and wrote the whole left-hand side of it off. Of course, I screamed, and then all the doctors and nurses thought there was a car accident, so they came out and took us into the hospital. So we were taken inside the hospital. The doctors said I had 3rd-degree burns and that I would scar for life. And all I had on me was an old dressing gown that ended up having one button on it and a pair of knickers underneath. And we snuck out the back of the hospital because the doctors weren't going to let us go. We snuck out the back of the hospital and because I was concerned, I wanted to go home. I had the other little girl at home and I didn't want to be there alone and with him by himself. So we walked home. The police stopped and asked us what we were doing at one stage, and I said, look, can you please give us a lift home? I need to get home. I've got this good young child. No, we're not a taxi service, and just drove off and left us. But a nice old man did stop and pick us up we'd probably walk for about an hour, and he dropped us off at home, which was really lovely. But I got him to drop us off down the road a little bit, and we walked home so that my daughter's father didn't see us. And we got home just as daylight was coming up, and I checked on the other young girl to make sure she was okay and got them ready for school. And then I went and opened the service station because I had to go to work the next day. We were in service stations. And then he eventually came into work and he said, oh, what a mess you're in. He said, put a scarf or something on so nobody can see it. So I had to get a scarf and put around my neck. But after a little while, it got infected, being in a service station, and I'd gone to the doctors and they'd give me some cream, but all the cream did was just attract all the dirt, so it got all the burns got infected. And there was a travelling salesman that came in one day, and I'd never seen him before, and we'd been in service stations for quite some time, and I never seen him again after that day. But he came in and he took one look at me and he said, I've got something in the car for you. And he went out and got this aerosol spray thing. It was quite expensive. But he said, go home tonight, have a shower, wash it all and spray this on. And it was just like it put a skin over and all the infections went away. And I don't have a scar on me. I reckon that was the one thing. Somebody was looking after me that day because I'd never seen this man before. I'd never seen him afterwards. And I've never seen this spray again that he gave me, but it just cleared it up. It was absolutely brilliant. And I don't have a scar on me, but I don't scar much anyway. I've had a lot of operations and cancers and things removed, and I hardly have a scar on me, so I do heal very well, and I'm very grateful for that.